Hey y'all, Punk Rock Parkinson's here. I think this is part 3 of my story. I went through my getting diagnosed and what that was involved, and then ultimately finding my movement disorder specialist, and now the medications. I think I covered that. So I'm going to move on to kind of how I came to decide I wanted DBS and some of that process. Basically, I was at a point where my medication was really spotty. It would either, wear off way early or not kick in at all, or, dopamine dump and become all dyskinetic, and it was erratic. It was unreliable. I just had no peace, rest, or anything. It was just constant, and I finally got tired of it, and I sent a message through my portal to my MDS and basically told him, I'm sick and tired of this medication. I'm having to increase it every 3 months. We've tried agonists to help it, and that isn't working. I said, I want to discuss DBS with you, Deep Brain Stimulation. And it probably wasn't an hour later, I got a message back from one of his nurses who said that Dr. Ramirez is very excited about you asking about this. He's been waiting for you to bring it up. And here, I'll call you shortly and make an appointment, to discuss. And so I made an appointment, and sorry, I hate things on my phone screen. So I made an appointment and went in, and we discussed DBS and what the process would be. He basically explained to me that I would have to first do a neuropsych evaluation, and that they would set that up, and it could be a couple months or whatever. And then after that evaluation, they would meet, the neurologist and MDS would meet with their board and determine if I was a good candidate for DBS, which he felt I was, providing the outcome was okay on the neuropsych evaluation. Because basically, if you show any signs of severe depression or any signs of dementia, it basically knocks you out of being a candidate for DBS. But I'll get into that later as far as depression and DBS. So anyway, I finally got that appointment. It took about, I had to do it over 2 days. The first day was very exhausting mentally and physically, of course, because I'm dealing with my symptoms and everything else. And so I went through that. It was a lot of memory testing and recall and coordination, putting things together, remembering parts of stories, that kind of thing. And then the next day, and that was 2 or 3 hours. And the next day was basically a test, about how do you feel about the color purple, that kind of stuff. It was very random questions, and you don't know if you're answering them right or wrong. You answer to the best of your ability and what you feel. So I did all that, and then I also had to do, while waiting for those results, I had to do an on-off exam with my doctor. So I had to be off my medication for 24 hours completely. I went in, and he did the full evaluation, the tapping of the fingers and toes and all that business. Of course, I was one of my major symptoms beside tremors is stuttering and having a hard time speaking. The words are there, but I can't get them out. And so went through that, and then basically you come in, you're off your medication, and then he has you take the medication, wait about 20-30 minutes for it to kick in, and then run you through all the same tests again, just to determine, because deep brain stimulation in the most basic terms, will only help you with what your medication, carbidopa, levodopa, helps you with, what symptoms it helps alleviate. And that's a simplified explanation, but I found it to be very true. And so we did that. We got the neuropsych eval back, and that was good. And then I met with a neurosurgeon who was wonderful. And then we scheduled deep brain stimulation for, God, what was it? It's been 6 years. So that'd be 2019. Yeah, it was March of 2019. And so it was one of the first surgeries I ever went into where I wasn't nervous. I was hoping for the best, but I kept my expectations low. And we went into surgery early morning. I don't remember how long it was or any of that kind of stuff. I do remember some things from the surgery because I did my surgery awake. I specifically remember the drilling of the holes in my head. And as a former house framer, it reminded me of the sound of a paddle bit when you're drilling wood and it's kind of splintering and stuff. And I have this picture in my head of my skull just splintering apart, but of course it's not that. And anyway, so that was kind of interesting to be awake through that. And then I kind of remember them, they placed the wires in my brain, and my DBS rep was there from Abbott, which is the unit I went with, and I'll go into those reasons later. Anyway, she was there, and I had both sides, left and right, done at the same time, and I wanted to have the battery done at the same surgery as well, because I wanted to get back on my feet and get back to work at the time. And so the surgery went well. I remember them programming, or kind of testing some programming and asking me a few questions. I think I had to speak, and I think I had to, wiggle my toes, or I don't know. I'm not totally clear on that. It was a little fuzzy. And then, of course, they knocked me out and placed my battery. Next thing I remember is waking up in my room with, of course, my wife was there, and my mom had come into town for my surgery, and my youngest son was there. And then I had some visitors that brought me, some good friends that brought me Whataburger. I'll definitely never forget that because I was starving. And anyway, yeah, it was a cool surgery. To me, it wasn't scary. Again, I was so miserable. I thought I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if I don't, if there doesn't turn out to be much benefit to this, it was still worth the effort and still worth going through everything I did. Didn't have much pain afterwards. I was up walking around the hospital that night. I had to stay overnight. They got me back on my medication. And that's about what I remember of that. And then going home, really not having much more pain than feeling like I had a headache at times. So it wasn't a terrible thing. It was not real painful for me, so I feel fortunate about that as well. So anyway, that's kind of my story about how I went about getting DBS and the surgery itself. We'll come back next with when they turned it on, which was scheduled for a month later after my surgery. And we'll discuss that and what I felt and the things that happened. So anyway, Punk Rock Parkinson's out. Y'all keep rocking on. Live your best life now. Later.